Today we're going to practice inking the blow pop, and we will be practicing with our 3 pens, and at the end you'll need an eraser. Please get these out, and I'm going to start a new demo for you here. So the first thing I want you to do is called the line weight practice. So you're going to find an empty corner of the paper to do this practice on. It is also okay to do this on a separate sheet of paper. Please take out your drawing number 18 from the practice last week. That is a blow pop with a cast shadow. Now, first thing I would like you to do is label your line weight practice. You're going to do one side with Uniball pen, and you're going to do the other side with a thin Sharpie. Please don't forget that when you are using Sharpies, you should have a scrap piece of paper underneath to prevent bleeding onto the table below. Now you're going to add a series of 4 lines. Every line will slowly increase in thickness as you move your way downwards. 1 line thick, 2 lines thick, 3 lines thick, and 4 lines thick. Do one side with the Uniball pen, and the other side will be done with the Sharpie. Now with the Uniball, you're going to get very thin lines, and you're going to have to work a little harder to make things look clean and smooth when they get thicker. But go slowly and go over your lines. Make sure there are no jagged edges or rough outsides. Make sure it's nice and even, and that you see a gradual increase from 1 all the way to 4 lines thick. On the next section, you're going to grab your thin Sharpie, and you're going to repeat this process. With your thin Sharpie, you may want to go a little bit faster. The ink will flow more quickly, so it will be a little more difficult to control thin lines. You're probably going to find it much easier with the thin Sharpie to do thicker line weights. Again, please do 1 to 4. Next thing you're going to do is you create what we call a tapered line. You are going to transition the line from thin to thick, back to thin again, and maybe even thick depending on how long your line is. Now you can start this tapered line practice with what I call just a simple squiggle or something kind of curly and organic. Do one side with Uniball and the other side with your thin Sharpie. Now what you're going to do is practice going from thin to thick with a nice smooth tapered line. No rough, jagged edges. And again, a smooth transition. Gradual, thin to thick, back to thin, and thicken it up again. When you're finished, repeat the same process with the thin Sharpie. Now again, it's going to be easier with the Uniball pen to keep thin lines neat and clean. It's going to take a little more effort to clean up thicker lines. You'll find that opposite with the Sharpie. It's going to be easier to complete thick lines quickly because of the ink flow, but when you go to do thin lines, you're going to need to be a little more careful and maybe even try a little bit lighter pressure on the paper. Now, as you start inking your blow pop, I want you to begin with the Uniball pen. It's your thinnest, and you're going to work your way up to the thin Sharpie and then the thick. Please keep in mind that you can always thicken a line, but once you have inked it, you cannot go back and thin it out again. Areas where you see the wrapper folding, you're going to see me add much bolder, heavier lines to give the illusion that something is a little bit closer to me as the viewer. Throughout your entire blow pop, you're going to need to show a change from 1 to 4 lines. Please watch this demo as I show you how to do this. So you might notice that now that I've gone around the blow pop with my Uniball pen, I am switching to thin Sharpie to intensify and show a little bit more extreme change from thick to thin line weights. Again, concentrating on the lines that are closest to me, folds, wrinkles, and things like that. When you get to the cast shadow, please switch to your thick Sharpie. Keep in mind that the sucker stick has a negative space in between the shadow and the object, so you need to pay attention to where exactly you are filling this in. It's always better to use a single direction of line rather than scribbling. Even if your Sharpie shows a little bit of the lines at the end, it's going to look much neater if they are all going the same direction. Please make sure that you go slowly and layer your ink evenly because this will help your Sharpie to last longer as well. Now when you're almost finished or ready to stop, put a signature underneath your candy and just kind of practice that. You can also go back into the candy and intensify and vary those line weights a little bit further before you call it done. Now the last thing you want to do before posting, make sure your ink's dry, take your white eraser and go over your drawing, making sure to get rid of any of the remaining pencil lead that you may have left behind.